1. Before I begin, all this happened when I was around 13 or 14, so some of the details have been provided by my parents. The story begins with entitled neighbor having a couple of trees on the border of my family's property that he wanted taken down. This was kind of odd, as these trees had been there since long before he moved in, and were in no way damaged or diseased, but hey, it's his property, and who am I to judge? Anyway, in the process of talking to my mother about it across yards, I wasn't present for this conversation, he casually dropped that he would need to have some heavy equipment in to take down the trees. To which my mother said, that's alright, why do you mention it? The neighbor responded something along the lines of, well, it would need to go through your property to get to the trees. The way he said it was kind of condescending, as if it was obvious somehow. My mother objected to this, since the neighbor's yard was by all means capable of accommodating the machinery in question, without causing harm to their property. The neighbor got in quite a huff about this, saying something to the effect of, well, I don't want it going through my property, and besides, you have a driveway they can use. Faced with the fact that the neighbor was clearly not going to back down on this right now, my mother ended the conversation and thought nothing of it. Keep in mind, my family isn't that well off, and our driveway hadn't been repaved in years. Thus, it was showing signs of wear like cracks and ruts. This meant that a bunch of heavy landscaping equipment going back and forth over it would almost certainly make that worse. Fast forward a few months later, my family goes on a trip. I'm not exactly sure where at the moment. I think it was to see family in the next state over. We come back and our yard is a mess. The neighbor had gotten the landscapers out while we were gone and lied to them, saying that my family had given permission to use our yard and driveway. Several bushes and small trees in our yard were completely torn up, along with several fruit bushes that my mother had been working on for years to neatly cultivate. Oh, and there was also a giant hole in our backyard. This would end up collecting storm water from our neighbor's property into ours, where it would become stagnant and host an insane amount of mosquitoes in warmer months. I won't get into it now, but this is a whole other story of entitlement that would almost result in a civil case against the entitled neighbor. Eventually, we paid around $800 to have it filled in. He was a lawyer and promised to financially drain us if we sued. Of course, we were furious that this piece of shit had the audacity to lie to the landscapers and completely wreck one side of our yard and driveway. I can distinctly remember a phone conversation on speaker with my mother about to lose it at the neighbor. She was saying how this was potentially going to cost the family thousands to fix. It, in fact, did. And how the neighbor had to pay for lying about having our permission. He essentially just laughed it off and said something like, "It was entirely within my rights, and if you don't drop the issue now, I might try applying for an easement on that land. After all, I've been taking care of it, and I know the law." That last part is verbatim what he said, and I still recall it clear as day. This was obvious BS, and my mother knew it. But again, he was very braggadocious about being a respected lawyer, and they were intimidated by that. So now down a couple thousand from driveway and yard repairs, and under the threat of having the property taken from us. My mother didn't go any further with it. Thinking this was the end of it, we continued on with our lives and vowed not to say a single word to the neighbor. Fast forward again about a year, and out of nowhere a dog fence is put in, again on my family's property. Entitled neighbor then has his landscaper start taking care of the area on top of the dog fence, as if it were his property. Knowing what was about to happen, my mother decided she'd had enough and talked to the neighbor again. He basically said, "The property is now basically mine, and I'm getting an easement to make it official." My mother, being an architect and having experience with landscape design and property disputes, knew what she would have to do next. She brought out her surveyor to find the property markers, and sure enough, the dog fence was thoroughly in my family's yard. After more back and forth, entitled neighbor finally agreed to move the fence onto his side of the property, but not before threatening an easement claim again. I'd like to say he got some sort of comeuppance for what he did, but unfortunately he got off completely free. My family's in a better position now financially, but we're far past the statute of limitations for filing a case. 2. So a little backstory. At the time, I'm 21 years old and female, and my boyfriend is 26 and male. We decided it's time to move in together, and he posts about it on Facebook. An old friend from high school, Jamie, 28, comments and says she has a 2-bedroom and her ex is moving out at the end of the month. We go and see the place, and not gonna lie, it's a really nice apartment with really affordable rent. We both have 1 cat, and she has a rabbit and snake as well. Seems perfect. So the first couple of months are fine. She's a bit of a neat freak, but we're not exactly sloppy, and we don't even use the living room. We have a tiny TV in our room. The only shared spaces we use are the bathroom and the kitchen. I should mention too, we don't have a dishwasher. Jamie wakes up at 4 a.m. every day for work, and we work mostly night shifts. Problems start when she wakes up for work and decides we didn't leave the kitchen spotless. By this, I literally mean we left a couple crumbs on a table, or a pot was really dirty, so we had to leave it to soak overnight in the sink. Other problems for her included my work boots. This was winter in upstate New York. It's freaking cold. My boots have steel toes. We have a plastic shoe mat inside the door, as well as a mudroom where most of the shoes go. But that room isn't heated, so I leave my boots on the mat so the toes don't literally freeze. When I have to work mornings, I leave at 5:30 when it's about 20 degrees out. She had moved them to the mudroom while I was sleeping every day, even after I asked her to stop. My favorite argument was when the lid of the kitchen trash can broke. My boyfriend was the last one to open it before it broke, so it was our responsibility to get a new one. No problem. I go to Walmart and find the exact same can, in white instead of black. Cue freakout. White doesn't go with the kitchen. It does. The stove and cabinets are white. She literally brought it back the same day and buys a really nice stainless steel one instead. So after almost a year of this, her boyfriend finishes his 4 years in the Marines. This dude is a year younger than me. They met on Tinder, and have only seen each other in person twice when he was home for holidays. So rationally, he moves in a week after coming home. He's never lived on his own and is almost 10 years younger than Jamie. He is also a super conservative Republican that drives the biggest black truck we've ever seen, despite him being like 5'4", and surprise, surprise, he's a slob. Immediately starts living on the couch, beer cans and dirty socks littered everywhere. Now there's 4 people sharing one bathroom. He shaves his beard, head, and pubes in there and doesn't clean it up. Brings over all his high school friends with no warning and has parties. Complains about the food that Jamie makes him, even though he can't cook for shit. She does, and says nothing about it. I feel kinda bad for her, in the sense that we know she really just wants to settle down with someone soon and start a family. Even though this dude has straight up said he's not doing that anytime soon. We had a roommate group chat, which is where she'd always tell us we left a mess somewhere. When he moved in, we asked her where we could add him, because he was pretty much destroying the place. She refused, and we never even got his number. She said if we had a problem with him, to tell him ourselves. We moved out 6 months after he moved in. There was enough talk between us, them, and the landlord, who was a super sweet lady, and on our side about everything, that they were told flat out they weren't allowed to have any more roommates. I guess they didn't want to hear Jamie complain about every little thing that didn't go her way. Only reason she wanted roommates in the first place was to save even more money than she already had. A lot for a 28-year-old. She easily could pay for the place with just the boyfriend. 3. So over a month ago, at a job I used to work at, we were working surprisingly good for an afternoon rush. Most fast food people will know what I mean, but I digress. It was starting to get late in the evening, and everything was starting to calm down. We come to figure out we sold all of our chicken tenders to a surprise. We had tons of people order them that day, and we had a restock truck due later that same day. The rest of the night went fine until the entitled chicken lady struck. So later into the evening, we got a call on our restaurant phone. It was the entitled chicken lady, and the following conversation followed. "Hello, welcome to Chicken Palace.
I would like to place an order for 4 boxes of 20-piece chicken tenders.
Sorry, ma'am, we're all out at this time.
Let me speak to your manager.
At this point, I already knew what was going down. I'd read my fair share of Reddit posts and let out the world's most not going for this BS sigh. And got my manager.
Hello, this is the manager at Chicken Palace. I was just told that you ran out of chicken tenders. Yes, we're all out for the rest of the day. How do you run out of chicken? You're a Chicken Palace.
Man, we sell burgers, fries, shakes, and anything else you would get from any other fast food restaurant. If you don't want to order anything else, I'm going to hang up now.
Let me speak to your general manager.
My cool manager hangs up. Me and B are talking about how packed we got today and how we even got through it. While the cool manager comes over and starts talking about it too. It starts getting later into the evening, and we're still getting quite a lot of customers, people who just don't understand the concept of cooking, come through the drive-thru. And just when our night was getting more relaxed, dun dun dun, cue the entitled chicken lady. Hello, welcome to Chicken Palace.
Can I get 4 boxes of chicken tenders with 4 Cokes?
I muted my headset and let out a sigh so loud that even Horton heard it. Ma'am, we are out of chicken tenders.
I want to speak to your manager.
I look up at the ceiling, contemplating my life decisions. Ma'am, pull up to the drive-thru window. What seems to be the problem, ma'am?
I was told you were out of tenders. Is that true?
Yes, we're all out.
Can you go check in the back?
Ma'am, if there were tenders in the back, you would have been gone already.
Well, I just drove here from Snickerdoodle.
My manager is highly confused. Ma'am, this fast food restaurant is literally in Snickerdoodle. She's silent for a few seconds. Cue me and B cackling like witches brewing the world's most dangerous potion.
What's so funny?
Me and B are laughing so hard, thinking what this lady's IQ was, because she said she drove from a place to the same place, and thought we would have more tenders because it took her 5 minutes to drive here. She then speeds off in the soccer mom-mobile, making a skirt sound, while going 12 miles per hour, which made us die even harder because I know this lady didn't think she was Vin Diesel and tried to go 60 in a minivan in Fort Sax. Anyways, I got written up for laughing, which I didn't mind because it was well worth that chuckle, and a few weeks after that happened, we got a bad review on our website saying we were poor workers who did nothing but laughed, and honestly, I wanted to slap my knee so hard, but couldn't due to the fact of 2 very freezing cold milkshakes in both hands. I'm surprised I didn't drop them. 4. Years ago, I coached gymnastics. I was coaching competitive gymnastics at a local gymnastics school that had pretty decent students. I was working with some of the younger students on back handsprings, and one of the girls separated her legs mid-air and kneed me in the nose, nearly knocking me out. I excused myself for a few minutes to get my bearings, as I was literally seeing stars and thought my nose was broken. Had another coach watch my students while I went to the restroom. My boss came in and berated me for leaving my students. I explained what happened and that I had another coach watch them while I went to make sure that I was okay. She told me this was inexcusable and to get back out there. I went back out and continued, but was worried about the safety of the students as I was still dizzy. Boss came over and I was working on conditioning instead since I didn't feel great. Had the girls doing push-ups, crunches, etc. Boss said they needed to be working on tumbling and I had to be spotting them. I said I don't feel safe spotting as I'm dizzy, and I'm worried about their safety if I miss. She said she didn't care and let them fall, that they'll learn not to fall that way. The next day I came in and was scheduled to work with the upper-level competitors. I noticed one of the students had a huge hinged knee brace on and asked her what happened. She said she had just gotten out of surgery last week from a torn ACL. I said she should probably be home resting and not training. My boss came over and said if she wants to make the elites, she has to train. Mind you, this is a girl that was 14 years old. The girl told me her doctor advised not to train and that she could face permanent damage. Boss talked to Mom and said she is fine to train and needs to come in, so Mom brought her against the doctor's wishes. My boss berated me in front of the students, coaches, and parents, and said,
"I don't care if she has a broken back, she needs to train."
I asked if she was going to train on things that wouldn't put a lot of pressure on her knee and was told no, continue training as if she's fine. I couldn't put a child at risk and quit on the spot. Boss screamed at me the whole way out to my car. 3 months after I left, I received a phone call asking if I could drive 4 hours away for a 2-day gymnastics meet, as they needed a coach with the team. I said I don't work there anymore and haven't in a few months, and unless they changed their tune and put students' health and safety first, I wouldn't ever consider coming back. Boss on the phone says,
"I know that and I don't care, but we need a coach."
She offered to pay me a whopping $8 an hour, not including gas or mileage or hotel. I laughed and said no way and hung up. 5. Many years ago, I used to work at a quick oil change place. I'd only been there for about a month when this happened. I was working check-in, guiding people into the bay, getting them logged into our computer system, and taking payments. A guy, probably in his late 40s or early 50s, Mr. Smith, came in with a basic mid-sized sedan. I guided him into the bay and greeted him as I got his plate number entered into the computer. After I entered his plate code into the computer, a message I'd never seen before popped up on the screen.
"Do not service vehicle."
This was a new one for me, so I apologized to the customer and told him there was something going on with my computer and I needed to get the manager. I went back to the office and told my manager that a guy just came in, and when I entered the plate code, I got a
"Do not service vehicle"
message. The manager got up, looked out the window at the bay and said,
"Ah, shit."
He got up and went out into the bay. I followed him and said, "Hi, Mr. Smith, we can't service your vehicle today." The guy asked why we couldn't, and the manager said,
"You have an active lawsuit against this corporation and this location. We are not allowed to service your vehicle."
I later found out that the lawsuit was based on a claim by Mr. Smith that this location had failed to add the proper amount of oil during an oil change, resulting in the engine seizing and needing to be replaced. He was the reason we had a policy change requiring us to put a temper strip on the plug after draining the oil pan. The guy got upset at that point and said,
"Well, I need an oil change and my car is already in here, so you should do it."
Manager told him there was another place down the road he could go to. One of our many competitors was less than a quarter-mile away. We would not do an oil change on his vehicle, and that he needed to leave the property. The guy was complaining about how ridiculous we were being as we guided him out of the bay, and he pulled away. A couple of days later, I was working on the computer again, and a woman who was probably in her early 20s pulled up outside in a mid-sized sedan. I guided her into the service bay, went around the back, and immediately recognized the plate number. It was Mr. Smith's car. So I go around to the driver's side and say, "Hi, does this vehicle belong to a Mr. Smith?" The woman responds, "Yeah, why?" So I told her, "I'm sorry, we can't service this vehicle." She told me it was her father's car, and he told her she could borrow it, but she had to take it in for an oil change to this specific location, and he had given her a discount coupon to use for the service. "I'm sorry, but your dad is suing us, so we can't do any service on this vehicle." She sighed and seemed annoyed, but we guided her out of the bay and on her way. Mr. Smith called the office later that evening after closing, and left a message on our answering machine about how rude and unprofessional we were for refusing service on a car that was clearly in need of an oil change, and how we owed it to him as a long-time customer. When we told the regional manager about it, he had us save the tape from the machine and turn it over to corporate so they could give it to their lawyers. I still have no idea what his angle was. If I felt a company had been negligent enough that I was suing them, there is no way I would continue to frequent their business. He tried coming in again maybe 5 months later on my day off, and apparently argued with the manager that his lawsuit should not impact his ability to get his service at this location. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Idiots in the Wild, episode 46. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you enjoyed the video, then please do share it with all your friends and family and co-workers, and anyone you know whose name begins with the letter R. We're doing R today. We might do another letter another day. Alright, let's see. This is Thursday. Yes, it is. It's Thursday. Thursday the 20th. As I pause for a sec to make sure I haven't forgotten anything important. No, I haven't. Next birthday is not till February. Okay. Sorry, I was thinking of family birthdays, not birthday shoutouts. Next birthday shoutout will be on Sunday. And hopefully, when I'm done with work today, I'll make a proper dinner. I haven't been doing that lately. I've been eating, but not like making a proper cooking of things. Plenty of things there. I'm very fortunate. I'm fully stocked, so I won't need to go out for groceries for a while. I did pop out yesterday to get a few things I needed, so I won't need to go out for a while. But yeah, so hopefully I do that. Still trying to make time to watch that Eternals film. And the many other things I'm behind on. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.